So to get back to it, next up we have, excuse me, Healing Touch. Costs 3 mana, restores 8 health. This card has its uses. That is a lot of health. Believe me, 8 health is a crazy amount. However, because this card doesn't deal damage or really change the state of the board or anything like that, it usually is not very useful. Reason I say that, sure, you get 8 health back, but what does it do to help change the state of the board? Like, if your opponent has board control, and he's dealing damage to you, and you just heal 8 health, all you're really doing with this card is stalling, instead of, you know, doing something about his board. That being said, sometimes health is extremely necessary, and therefore having a card that restores that much health can be extremely useful. However, it's not always the best card to have. Sometimes it's better to have answers rather than a card that can be stuck in just this kind of rut of being used solely to stall the game out and kind of drag it out another turn. So it can be useful. I don't like it all that much, but I'm not going to say it doesn't have its times when it's good. Then we have Mark of Nature. Costs 3 mana, choose one. Give a minion +4 attack or +4 health and taunt. This is kind of like Mark of the Wild, except for its, you don't get both the attack and the health. You get to choose one of them. So it is a little, I don't know. Because of that reason, I don't like it quite as much as Mark of the Wild. That being said, giving a minion +4 attack is pretty crazy. I mean, you could take a card that normally has 3 attack and suddenly it's got 7. It's a much bigger threat. That being said, usually cards that really need that attack buff do not have that high of health anyway, and so if you use the attack part of it, the card that you just buffed is likely to be destroyed by your opponent. It's rather easy to answer those kind of cards, and if you give that kind of a minion +4 health and taunt, usually it'll... Most Druid cards, like creatures, are not actually known for having crazy high attack, rather for their health. But yeah, giving a minion +4 health and taunt, that can be extremely useful, but on the other hand, I don't know. I feel like just having a card in your deck that has high health and taunt, for example, Ascension Shieldmaster, costs 4 mana, it is a 3/5 with taunt. That's, you know, 5 health for a taunt instead of 4 health and taunt. So, this card can be useful, but I feel like Mark of the Wild's a bit better. And if you're really going for taunt generation, a creature might be a better option than this. So, that's my personal opinion. I don't know. Some people will probably disagree with me, and I'm not going to say I'm the best card analyst in the world. The entire point of these videos anyway is more to allow my viewers to know what each card does, and give my basic opinion on them, rather than to try to get at what a card's true value is and whether or not it's a good card or not. That's not really for me to say. I'm not an expert. That's for, you know, people who really know what they're doing, like Trump and Kriparian. People like them, Amaz. But yeah, that's that card. Savage Roar. Cost 3 mana, give your characters +2 attack this turn. This means your hero, so your Druid hero will gain 2 attack, as well as all of your creatures on the board. This card, I've seen it used very effectively. It can be comboed with some other Druid cards to get an extremely high amount of damage off in one turn. For example, if you have, let's say, 4 minions on the board, right? all of those minions get +2 attack, and your hero. This card alone just generated 10 damage. That's pretty crazy. So, I mean, yeah, if you have board control, this card can be absolutely ridiculous. However, if you are behind and you have no minions on the board, this is basically a dead card. So, while it's really good for certain combos, it's not always super useful. I will explain one combo the Druid has with it, which keeps it as a pretty vigorous card, but yeah, it's good. It's not, you know, up the wall amazing, but it's good. So, yeah. Let's see, what else? Are there any other 3s I've missed? Nope. Okay. Next up, Bite. We kind of delved a little bit into this card earlier with Savagery. Costs 4 mana, give your hero +4 attack this turn and +4 armor. Usually this card isn't extremely useful. Reason being, it costs 4 mana, and it'll deal 4 damage. You're doing 1 damage for 1 mana, basically, and that's not the most efficient trade. Usually you want higher efficiency out of a card than that. On top of that, it's not like it's just dealing 4 damage outright. It's granting your hero armor, yes, but you still have to attack whatever you want to deal 4 damage to, and sometimes that thing is going to have more than 4 attack. So this card will actually cause you to take damage sometimes just to answer something, and it's making you do that at a rate of only 1 damage per 1 mana spent. That's not good value in my opinion, and that's honestly one of the reasons why you don't see it run in very many Druid decks. It's just not always that high value of a card. So, yeah. I don't know. It's just, I don't really like it, and I don't see it played that much. That's the reason I think it isn't played that much, it's just not that efficient. Soul of the Forest. Cost 4 mana, give your minions Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 Treant. This card can be extremely useful. If you have, you know, 3 or 4 or more minions on the board, making it so that when they die, immediately they're just replaced by 2/2 Treants, it makes every single card extremely hard to answer, because not only do you have to kill that card, you have to immediately also kill the 2/2 that it summons just for dying. So, this Soul of the Forest card can be extremely useful when you have a lot of minions out on the board. Kind of like Savage Roar though, if you don't have very many minions out, it can also be a bit of a dead card. There is one card that this combos with. It's actually the same card that Savage Roar combos with. However, this isn't played as often as Savage Roar is, reason being the card that these two combo with. Savage Roar will get off more instantaneous damage, whereas Soul of the Forest just kind of throws some treants out there. And usually in decks that we're seeing in this meta, having a lot of damage in one turn and just being able to, you know, throw all of it out there and suddenly burst your opponent down from 20 HP or more, that's usually deemed more valuable than just being able to put a couple of minions out. Next up, Swipe. Cost 4 mana, deal 4 damage to an enemy minion and 1 damage to all other enemies. I actually misread that. Deal 4 damage to an enemy, not an enemy minion. So you can target an opponent's face with this. And if you don't target their face, the 1 damage will be applied to their face from the, you know, rest of the card's effect. This card is actually extremely useful as a Druid card, because not only does it provide 4 mana to deal 4 damage, kind of like Bite does, but instead of just kind of, you know, doing the 1 damage per 1 mana thing that Bite does, it will instead deal 1 damage additionally to all other enemies. So the bare minimum you can get out of this card is 5 damage, assuming you use it on a creature, if it's the only creature your opponent has out. On top of that, while Bite causes you to attack that creature, this might as well give you infinite mana for one, or not infinite mana, excuse me, infinite armor for one turn, because you don't have to use your face to attack the minion that you're dealing 4 damage to. You can just deal the 4 damage. So, all in all, it's an extremely valuable Druid card, and it's one of the best cards that they have. Any 4-drops we're missing? I don't think... no. We're not missing any 4-drops. Just this. Keeper of the Grove. Costs 4 mana. It is a 2/4. This is the first Druid creature we've actually seen. Choose one. And this is a battle cry, by the way. I don't know why exactly they haven't put that as a battle cry. But when you summon it, you get to choose one of these two. Deal 2 damage or silence a minion. This is extremely useful because either you can get 2 damage out immediately to kind of kill off one of your opponent's minions, or to help kill it off if you want to combo it with some other form of damage. Or if your opponent's got a really threatening minion that they've kind of buffed up using certain cards, like, for example, Mark of the Wild. If Mark of the Wild is on an opponent minion and you don't want it there, you can silence him and boom, that's gone. That's what silence does, by the way. It removes all effects from a creature. If the creature has a battle cry or a death rattle, which is it does something when it dies, silencing it will just remove that effect. And also any text that a card has is also removed. Taunt is also removed by this, and so is spell damage. So that's really nice. This card is just extremely versatile on top of being a 2/4 minion, which is pretty nice. Having 4 health means that it kind of gets out of the range of quite a few cards that could potentially deal with it, like Wrath, which we saw earlier. So yeah, minions that have 4 health kind of hit that little niche of being just above certain cards dealing with them. So, all in all, it's a pretty nice card, and it's run, I think, in almost every Druid deck that I've seen played on the pro circuit. So yeah, that should speak volumes about the amount of value you can get out of this card. We're all going to go into crafting mode here because I know there are 5 mana cards for Druids that I do not have. So to start out, Nourish. Costs 5 mana. You get to choose one, gain 2 mana crystals. No, they're not empty. You can use them. Or draw 3 cards. This card is just amazing. Reason being, you can either accelerate the tempo incredibly with it by gaining 2 mana crystals, as opposed to what we saw earlier with Wild Growth, giving you 1 empty one. This gives you 2 bonus mana crystals, and you can use both of them immediately. Admittedly, you'll have already spent 5 mana, but still. Or, if it's getting later in the game and you don't need the tempo accelerated anymore, if it's turn 9 or 10 and you're already basically at maximum mana, you can instead use it to draw 3 cards. That's getting a value of, 3 new cards out of just 1 card. Or basically, you can throw this card away to replace it and get 2 more cards as well. That's just amazing. Any card that can replace itself with an instant 3-to-1 value is, like I said, crazy. It's just an amazing card, and personally, I love it. Starfall. Cost 5 mana, choose one, deal 5 damage to a minion, or 2 damage to all enemy minions. This card, it's about the closest to board clear a Druid's gonna get. And it is versatile, because you can deal 5 damage to a minion. When you choose that, though, again, you're kind of getting into that little bite rut, where you're using 1 mana to deal 1 damage, basically. Dealing 2 damage to all enemy minions. There are other cards in the game which will, outpace that in terms of value. They can do 2 damage and something else, or can just deal more than 2 damage. So Starfall, compared to other forms of board clear, it's not amazing, but since it's Druid's strongest form of board clear, in and of itself, it's still not a bad card. Usually at least one of these are run in just about all Druid decks, just in case you need something like that. Not to mention, you know, if you have spell damage creatures, you can buff that damage to be a little bit higher. So, not terrible. I don't think it's great, but it is most certainly not terrible. Druid of the Claw. This is one of the best Druid cards in existence. It costs 5 mana. Don't be fooled quite by the 4/4, because that's not always how it is, otherwise this would not be an amazing card like it is. When you summon it, this is also a battle cry, and I don't know why they, you know, don't put that there. Choose one. You can either give it charge, which is something called cat form. He'll basically turn into a something that looks, I guess, like a, I don't know, snow leopard? I don't know. It's definitely feline, and it's got kind of blue steel colored fur, but he turns into a cat and gets charge. So you can immediately just drop him as a 4/4 and smack things with him. Usually cards with charge do not have that high of health, which, you know, is part of what makes that pretty useful. The other thing you can do is give him +2 health and taunt, which puts him into bear form. He basically looks like the bear on swipe. Do I really not? What? Oh, swipe's soulbound. Yeah, he looks like that bear. That'll give him +2 health and taunt. That basically summons a 4/6 with taunt. Usually cards that have taunt don't have... They'll either suffer an attack, or they'll suffer in health, because giving them that taunt stat, where they have to be dealt with before you can deal with the other minions your opponent has, usually cards will just lose stats for gaining that ability. With Druid of the Claw, it's got some pretty great stats for having to be immediately dealt with. And having 6 health, there aren't very many cards, even for 5 mana, that have 6 attack to deal with it. So, I mean, it's just a really, really good card. And, yeah, of all Druid cards, I'd have to say this is probably... I don't know, it's definitely among my top 5. I know that doesn't seem like it says much, but Druid has quite a few amazing cards. You know, we already went over Nourish, Swipe. There's 2 more we're going to see that I really like. There's this guy too. But yeah, all in all, Druid of the Claw, really good card. Okay, there aren't any 5 mana cards I'm missing there. Whoops, too far. 6 mana. Force of Nature. Summon 3 2/2 treants with charge that die at the end of the turn. This is the card I was talking about earlier, which you can use to combo with Savage Roar or, what is it? Soul of the Forest. Because these treants have charge, if you use Savage Roar with them, you're basically summoning, for 9 mana, 3 4/2 treants with charge. That's 12 damage instantly, plus the 2 on your own hero, so that's 14 damage from 2 cards in 1 turn. That's pretty nice. That is pretty dang nice. If you combo it with Soul of the Forest, these treants not only have charge, but once they die, which they invariably will by the end of the turn, it's even in the card's effect, they will immediately be replaced by permanent 2/2 treants. Like I said, Savage Roar is more often used to combo with this card than Soul of the Forest, because you can get basically double the damage out of this. A little bit more than double the damage. And yeah, having just 2/2 treants to replace it, you know, spending 10 mana to summon 3 2/2s, it's just not... It's basically spending 10 mana to summon 3 2/2s with charge and Divine Shield. And that's not that great of value. Whereas spending 9 mana to do 14 damage, a bit better. That's pretty good. So yeah, that's where that card is useful. Again, I'm going to take another break right here. Just